Gentlemen, I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, January 13, 2015 special call meeting to order. It's approximately 5:37 p.m. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Williams?
Here.
Councilwoman Fairclough?
Here.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Here.
Councilman Burgess?
Here.
Councilman Maldonado?
Here.
Mayor Porter?
Here. If there's no objection, let's go to tab 3 for the 35 Northwest 1st Street acquisition. So staff report on tab 3.
Yes, Mayor Rick and Peter will get us started.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Staff recommends that the mayor and council approve the resolution ratifying the option to purchase agreement and commercial contract to purchase the parcels located at 35 Northwest 1st Street, Homestead, Florida 33030, lots 44, 45, 46, and 47, according to the amended plat of Miller's addition to Homestead, Florida, as recorded in Plat Book 1, page 156. For the purposes of expanding Losner Park and authorizing the city manager to exercise the city's option, the option fee is $500. The total purchase price of the properties is $490,000.
Any questions from council? Questions from council? I'll open up the public hearing at this time. This is a public hearing. Anyone would like to speak for or against this application?
Mayor, I'd just like to make one comment and thank the Dougherty family who owns this property. We've had a lot of discussion with them, and the discussions were very amicable, and they were very much interested in getting what they felt they were entitled to, but also trying to do the best they can for the city. So appreciate their cooperation.
Okay, very good. Thank you. At this time, I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Final comments, Mr. Burgess?
How many parcels do we have left to acquire there, Rick, to have the be complete?
There are 2 parcels left, one that we are in negotiations with, and one whose owner says that they're not interested, and we're looking at how we start moving that process forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Anything else? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilman Williams? Yes. Councilwoman Fairclough?
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Let's go back to tab 1. Discussion item. Rick or the manager?
Hey, Rick, you're going to take this one.
Sure. This is just a discussion item. In your packet are the annual legislative packets that have all of the different projects and kind of legislative priorities that we have, that we send to our elected officials in Tallahassee, and also our lobbyists who go on our behalf during the committee time and during sessions. I do know that this year we are, I believe it's the consensus of the council to really focus on the tax issue with the Speedway, and there were a few other things, but we just want to make sure that you've seen this and that you're okay with what we're proposing.
Questions from council? Ms. Fairclough?
Yes, I have a question. One is, when was the last time we received anything from Tallahassee as far as funds? And 2, that was a rhetorical question. That was a rhetorical question.
To tell you the truth, because again, I wasn't really part of this in the last few years, I don't recall. I think that's why we have a few things this year that we have been approved or recommended for funding, but we have to wait until they allocate the budget during the budget process in May and June. And so I think we really need to focus on what's realistic and how we can really kind of leverage everybody's capital to get some things done in Tallahassee. And I know that the lobbyists are committed to that. And I know you as an elected board have been committed to that. So to answer your question, though, I do not exactly know, but I can try to find out.
Okay, we're going to change that trend, right, Mr. Fuentes? And my next question is, we're asking for $4.4 million for the Seminole Theater. We still need money for the Seminole Theater after the referendum?
Well, it's a function of the more grant money we have, the more flexibility we have in terms of what goes inside. So you're talking about, everything's about choices with that theater. Is it the plastic seat or is it the wooden seat in the backing? Is it the, the marble or is it the carpet? Is it, there's a lot of different appointments inside that the more we have, the better the sound system can be. So we're obviously, just dealing with those kind of issues, and so that's why we'd like as much as we can get from grants.
Okay, well, that's a great rationale. I just wanted to make sure we're just not asking for money just for the sake of
Oh,
it.
yeah, no, because truthfully, there's just so much in the theater that can be done that right now this is the economy version that our budget was, and obviously we'd like a little more, but, at some point we had to cut off what we were going to ask the public for. So it's like the lobby alone, it's a function of, are you going to have, at this point we have slated carpet, correct? Or
They're looking at carpet or a tile, acoustic
carpet or
tile.
tile. So, it's, and the seats were another big issue for us.
The seats can range from anywhere from $250 a seat to $1,200 a seat, depending. So we're looking at that. And in this specific agenda, we have applied for grants, and we have been approved or recommended for funding for the Seminole Theater, not $4.2 million, but we want to make sure that our legislators know that when they come to the budget season, if the money's allocated in those grant programs, that we would be getting our funding. So that one's an important one for us.
And then, Rick, another item that we were kind of iffy on in terms of budget was a screen, right, for movies? Or,
Right.
Yeah, so right now there's no budget in there for a screen. So those are the kind of things that as more grants come in, you'll have the opportunity to decide what upgrades that you want, if any. And that's pretty much where is it. Were there any other kind of iffy items that we thought maybe if we get a grant we'd be able to do?
There's always more things you can do with the sound system, or more things you can do with the rigging, or more things you can do with the orchestra pit. So there are things that aren't completely essential to getting the theater up and running, but are nice things that you'd want to have for your flexibility in the productions that you can do.
Also, with the outside, wasn't there some other, the patio area? Was that an item?
One of the items, we do have a list of things that we would like to do. The second floor terrace, we would like to be able to enclose that, have it so that you can enclose it and open it so that you have more space if you wanted to do functions. And that's the part of the theater that opens up to Losner Park. So on those nice days in the winter when it's, you want to open it up and go outside, you can. When you want to have a function inside and you want to close it, you can. And so we have the cost of what that would be to do, but it's extra. And so if we get the grant money to do it, we can do it.
So we got the basic car, just enough to get us rolling. If we get more money, then we'll come back to you and see what other extras you'd like in there.
Okay, and I have another question. Perhaps Mr. Levy, who's here, I'd like to recognize you. Our other lobbyist here, or Mr. Fuentes, if you can answer this question. I know in last year's session, there was a chunk of surplus money in the budget. What are we projecting this year? Do we think this session would yield that amount of surplus funds from last year or more? Or what are our options or chances of bringing some money back to Homestead?
Jose, you guys both want to just come to the podium and...
Since Bob's older than me, I'll let him speak first. He's also smarter sometimes. Speak slowly and clearly. Okay. Please forgive me, I'm just getting over the flu. That's why I'm staying all the way over here.
Time to go.
That's a good question, Councilwoman. They're projecting $1 billion surplus, all of which sounds great, except you have a governor who's asked for $500 million in tax cuts. That takes care of half of it. If they fund the FEFP, the Florida Education Finance Plan, at the numbers which he projected, which I know you would like to see, that far exceeds the $1 billion. If you take in Medicaid caseload, normal growth of the state, we're broke. And yet we have a $77 billion budget.
And also Amendment 1, which passed, which also
Right.
is going to dedicate, there's also the passage of Amendment 1, which now dedicates money toward projects which are infrastructure and environmental related. So it's going to be an interesting year. And I don't know if Bob was here. But one of the questions that was asked, in the past, there hasn't been money in the pots in Tallahassee. There hasn't been, but it's affected every municipality. Last year, we were very successful in bringing additional monies to municipalities with these projects that had been thought out. I will tell you that from my discussion with Rick, what you have is a very well thought out projects. You have projects that go to the Seminole Theater, which, yeah, it's 4.5, but you have grants at 50,000, at $500,000, which is that additional money that you need to make it a better place for the community. And a lot of the other projects that are identified in your appropriations list are also very well thought out. There's been a grants process that has gone through. So what we're going to be doing in this legislative session is ensuring that those monies continue the passage that they're taking, which is to come to the city of Homestead. There are some items in there which are infrastructure related, which Mr. Brea is included in the package along with the assistant city manager and the manager, which those are items that we have to aggressively work on.
Mr. Mayor, if I could,
Ms. Fairclough, anything? Go ahead.
I wanted to speak to Amendment 1 for a moment. All of us hopefully are familiar with it. 77% of the people voted for it. There hasn't been a pot of money this big since the Hurricane Andrew Trust Fund. Let me repeat that. There hasn't been a pot of money this big since the trust fund. And looking up at the council, I know there's some folks that were there with us fighting for those dollars. You know what a feeding frenzy $1 billion brought. You can imagine what $750 million is the projection today. We've gone up $100 million in real estate taxes since the amendment passed in November, since it passed. So now the question is, what goes into Amendment 1? The legislature now is caused to say, here's what we're going to fund from Amendment 1. Some of the traditional sources of funding, Florida Forever, beach restoration, springs, Everglades, will all go in. We're fighting right now to get rails and trails in. It's a 20-year budget. Senate President wants a 5-year work plan, which I think is a great idea. But there are two problems. Number one is, okay, now we've agreed that this is what we're going to fund. Now there are things over here we can't fund anymore because the money we were taking out of dock stamps, we don't have anymore to put in those holes. So we're not going to be able to fund maybe municipal water and sewer. We're not going to be able to fund XYZ because we had to put all that money into dock stamps, which is frankly the big lie, because all that money was supposed to be going into those sources anyway. They have to replace the money that they've been raiding that trust fund for. So it's a two-tiered fight. And I expect it to be the biggest fight of session, by the way.
Anything else, Ms. Fairclough?
Yes. Tonight, are we being expected to kind of finalize this legislative list? Because I have something that I would like to add to it, but I need to vet it a bit more before we conclude it. It won't take long, but I just need a couple of days.
Sure. A couple of things. First of all, it's if you all like it the way it is and or you want to add or you want to wait till the next council meeting, there's a bunch of ways we can go. The one thing I did want to point out, because we face this every year, is we have this big packet of stuff.
Right.
And then everybody says, great, we want all this stuff, keep it in the packet. And then our representatives tell us every year there's too much stuff in the packet. You should thin it down. So if you wanted to thin it down, this would be one of your opportunities to do that. If you want to leave it, which many elected bodies just like to dump all this stuff in and give it to their lobbyists and say, hey, you figure it out, that's okay too. But it's really your decision.
Mr. Mayor, I think that one of the things, and I think Bob and I, we go through this every year with municipalities. I consider, and it's kind of cliche-ish, the legislative package is a breathing, working document that at any time urgent matter comes up, I think we can add it because there's things that happen that are beyond, anyone's control. So that's the way I look at the legislative package.
Do you need them to thin out that package, or are you okay with what they have? Because every year you guys say, hey, why are you giving us so much stuff? So whatever you want to do, but I just want to make sure you guys are happy with what we're giving you.
My recommendation, and we just had a sidebar quickly on this, is that you, and I've talked to Rick about this, and I think he's got the right approach, which is to identify what the priorities are. Because when we go meet with those members that are critical in the appropriations process, we are not, I'm being honest, we're not going to go through all 14 items. We're going to go through your top 3. And what we'll do at the end of the day is we'll leave the rest of the package, and some of them, again, are grants. So it's a follow-through and going through the process. But we would suggest that, maybe follow the managers and assistant managers' suggestion on what the critical items are. That's only my suggestion. I don't know if Bob agrees.
I agree with that, Mr. Manager, but you do have a deadline of the 26th to present to the delegation. And that's a crucial presentation because you have to go on record that this is what we want. And let me urge that you include some very substantive items. I think Rick and I had that discussion, but I haven't seen the packet, I'm not sure. For example, I think that enterprise zones are very important in this community. They're gone next December. The way it looks right now, as of last week, the legislature is prepared to do away with it. We're the poster child, Dade County. We've used enterprise zones more than any other community in the state. They feel like it's been abused here, and they want to do away with it. Other issues are racetrack issue. Should be a top priority. We've got great sponsors. We've got a bill number in the House. Great Senator Thad Altman from Melbourne, in the, Rockbridge actually, in the shadow of Daytona, on the F&T committee. So I think we've got a good chance this year to move that bill. I think those are the kinds of things we really need to be talking about.
Let me get some other comments if Ms. Faircloth is...
Yes, I'm
Let me move on to, because I know we've got some other questions. Mr. Burgess and then Ms. Waldman.
Thank you. And this leads into what I was going to bring up to begin with. I think as a city, and I had the discussion with Rick this morning, I've had a discussion with both lobbyists today, is that we need to identify 5 things that are critical to us. And we as a city need to come up with a narrative that we all carry the same message up there. Not, I'm talking about it in one way and somebody else is talking about the same project in another way, but we don't convey what needs to be done because we may not know all the facts or all the needs that go into our wish list. So I would like to see us come up with 3, 5, maybe 6 things that are important to us that we can focus on, that are going to help the community the most. And somehow between, I know that your staff is very busy, Manager, with all the projects we've got going. And perhaps, each one of us can help with a narrative, but I think we all need to have a narrative that the city has put together, that when we discuss it, we go up there and that's the narrative that we stick to when we speak with the legislators or committee members or staff members or whoever it is, or lobbyists or whoever it is. I think we need to make sure we have a concise narrative for each project, and I think we need to narrow this down to 4 or 5. I mean, we can leave them all on there as a wish list, but I think we should put a red asterisk next to between 3 and 5 of them, and that's where we need to focus our attention and energy. And of course, like Mr. Fuentes said, if something pops up and it's on our list of, and it blips on the radar, then, we do our best to get at it. But I think that there's a few that we need to really focus on and make sure that we try to push those forward, because, and I know for myself, I'm going to the Dade delegation on the 26th to speak about a couple of these items and let them know that we need their help and that we're expecting their help. And then I'll be in Tallahassee the first week of February to push. And as I go up there, I want to make sure that I know what the city wants, not just what John Burgess thinks is most important, but what the city feels is most important. And so when I go to the committee members or staff members or whoever I run into, that I can express the city's view, not just what I think. So that's what I would suggest that we do, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Waldman.
Sorry. I agree with Mr. Burgess that we do need to have priorities, and I think we all need to be on the same page rather than one person saying one thing and then maybe without having the facts in front of you, saying something differently. I rely highly on our lobbyists. Thank you both so much for everything you do. The Biscayne Everglades Greenway project, it's been on the bottom for a long, long time as far as Tallahassee goes, but Bob and I, we started this project a long time ago, and Bob, could you just explain just a little bit about how it's kind of set aside from the other things this year, and that this is the year, if it's ever going to be the year, this is the year. We have a meeting Thursday with Rails to Trails, and they're coming down to meet with us and the Biscayne Everglades superintendents and representatives. So Bob, would you just elaborate on that?
Well, Councilwoman, if they fund Rails to Trails, then we're going to get our money. We're prioritized. There's only 2 other trails in the mix with us, Ludlam and Atlantic Beach, and we're going to get our money. But that's one of the items that if we don't get into Amendment 1, my fear is that they'll say, we have no money left for trails because we had to fund all that other stuff.
Right.
That's my concern.
And I think Jose and Bob, you both feel that we have a really good chance of this being the year.
Absolutely.
The year. So keep your fingers crossed. Thank you. And what a great, I think this is great presentation, great package. I don't know if the citizens of Homestead realize how fortunate and lucky we are to have such experienced lobbyists working on our behalf. And when I say they know everybody in Tallahassee, they know everybody in Tallahassee. So I feel very grateful and blessed. Thank you.
Bob and Jose, I agree 100% with what everybody's saying. One of the things that I think we've done in the past is we've gone up there with a wish list and chased issues that had no money, had no funding, had no chance of surviving. And that's where we have to rely on your expertise as to say, we may want $4.5 million to renovate Seminole Theater, but does it have a chance? If we put it in our priority list and we leave something that has a chance off of our priority list, it really doesn't it doesn't do a whole lot for us. If we can get outside money to come in and help us fund a project, any project, it saves our taxpayers dollars. So, I mean, as we hone this, this discussion, certainly the tax relief issue with the Speedway isn't a dollar value attached to it right now. It's a longer process, and I think that's been one of our lead issues for a long time. That has no money attached to it necessarily, but that's one of our lead projects. The Rails to Trail, I think, is we've been at that table a long time, and we certainly want to stay focused on that, and especially if there's money that's possibly going to be at the table. So we need your guidance to make sure that as we pick these agenda items, it has a realistic opportunity for us to get money.
For example, if you look at the sheet that I just saw, texting would appear to be the #1 priority. That's an erstwhile cause. There's 4 bills filed already that make it a primary offense. The likelihood of that passing is slim and none. We're in an era where they want to do away with red light cameras. The only reason that we passed primary enforcement for seatbelts was they needed the money. It was during the recession, they needed the money. It's the only reason it passed. They don't need the money right now. If they're talking about not even reenacting the Seminole Compact for $151 million. So they're footloose and fancy-free when they've got that kind of surplus.
Okay. Mr. Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question. As I go through this list and see everything that we have, they're all important. But at what point are we going to start highlighting, or as they say, put an asterisk next to those that are going to be important. Is that something that you guys are going to put together? You're going to highlight yourselves, or should we do ours and then we come back to the table?
My preference would be if you're all prepared to do that tonight, that'd be great. If you need more time to consider, I know your deadline is the 26th.
Yeah, this is the 26th.
We have a council meeting on the 21st, so I guess it really, Bob? 26 is your deadline?
26 is the meeting that Councilman Burgess is
If they don't
appearing.
approve this to the 21st and you get the final approval by the,
Oh, that's fine.
that's fine. Okay, so
Sure.
you
And
can do it one
it's
of
living
two
and
ways.
breathing, like they said, so, you know, but I would think that
If you all
maybe-
have if you know what you want to prioritize, it'd be easier for us if you do it now.
So would it be fair or right to just, so that we, and I know Councilwoman Faircloth, she wanted to bring on an item by the next council meeting, and it's about a week. I think, you know, we go into these packets, we
Yeah, that's
start
not a
to
problem.
highlight it, and do we get back to you, or do we highlight it, come back into the meeting?
Yeah,
Here.
sunshine-wise, I think the only thing we could do that might be helpful is if they want to send us ahead of time what their top priorities are, we'll include them in the packet. So I guess if each of you include what your top priorities are, and then you can all see what your priorities are in the packet, and then you can make the final decisions at the meeting.
Okay.
The
Let's just-
deadline would be Friday for the agenda, so if we could get something to you, if you could get us something by Friday, we'll incorporate all your preferences into the packet, and then you could all make your decisions.
Okay, but let's be clear now. Rick has done some preliminary discussions with our lobbyist, and you have an idea of a top 5 or top 6 right now. So let us hear your top 5 or top 6 at the table, and then we can feel yes or no towards, you know, some of the work that you've already put forth into this. And then I'm going to go to Mr. Burgess, okay?
Sure. I do know that the tax relief one is something that's been discussed and is extremely important to the council as a whole. And again, that's not a number item, that's a more of a policy kind of support issue. We did mention the grants that we've gotten recommended for the Seminole Theater, because that's money that, if it gets funded, we want our money. The Everglades Bikeway Trail, that's another one, because again, if it gets funded in the budget, we're going to get some money. The Pet Trust, which is something that's been discussed very relatively recently here, was another one. I'm trying to think off the top, Bob, if there's anything that I'm missing.
Enterprise zone?
The enterprise, the enterprise zone is possibly one. That's. Let me think.
Rick, let me get Mr. Burgess real quick.
Sure.
Rick, and I know that Mr. Brea's department has quite a few entries into our wish list. Is there any way that perhaps he could go through, because I don't know what's more important in things down the line to the city? You know, is it the wastewater, is it the sewer, you know, what's most important? And perhaps he could kind of prioritize his wish list, which would certainly help me, because I don't know if the inline booster pump is more important than a sewer system evaluation or what, you know, so, but obviously they're both important to some extent, otherwise he wouldn't probably put them in the list. So I think he's got the most entries out of any department head. And then maybe Dennis with his park wish list, because I think those are the two that have the most, and then and that would help me. So if I could ask for that from them, I don't think it would be. I think they probably have a pretty good idea in their mind of how to prioritize or what is the priority.
If I could just add one other thing, and we go through this every year, and the frustration I have is that for the most part, if you have 100 items on the list or 20 items on the list, the chances of you getting more than 1 or 2 are very unlikely. Most of the years we get nothing. And the problem is the lobbyists know best what we have the shot at getting. So if Julio said of his 10 public works items 5 and 10 are his top 2. And those 2 items we have 0 chance of getting any funding for. It's silly, in my opinion, to have him prioritize in that. And then other times, electeds don't like to throw their item off because they want to say, I fought for my item. So the only thing I would say is the best thing to do if you're happy with your list is to have your lobbyists pick what they think is achievable, and then there's some level of accountability there, because if you give them stuff that there's zero chance of them winning, the chances of you getting that then become zero. Meanwhile, if they see something on the list, is redoing the power plant like our top priority? Probably not, but if they could get us the money, go to it, right? So that's my only suggestion to you, but do it any way you want.
Mr. Mayor?
Is there
Um,
anything
I-
else,
I don't-
Mr. Burgess? Okay.
I don't disagree with what the manager's saying, and I think, obviously, Bob has been in the legislature and worked the halls longer, but I can tell you, it's the same result. There's sometimes opportunities that do arise. I mean, I see, like, the last page 4 of the items, you have a technology for police departments. Sometimes there is availability for monies that we can attack or find a way to get those monies. So, getting back, and I know it's hard to pick your favorite children, always, but I think there's issues like the Speedway, and I'm going to say, and the $3 million for the Trails program. Put the top 3 that you think you've worked on that are really critically important. That lease on the Speedway is critically important, so we know that. Bob and I have been working this issue not now, we've been working it all year with different folks, so we know how important it is. I think you pick those 3, and you leave the rest for us to, as the manager stated, to identify. And there, as he looks at the numbers, because I know somebody works in midnight light, it's Bob. We'll attack that fund, and we'll try to get those monies so that we get you your biggest bang for your buck.
Ms. Waldman?
I go through this every year where you look at the list and you say, oh my goodness, things sound so important, and everything seems to be an emergency, when you read the narratives. But I really believe that the lobbyists, they know what they're doing, they're experienced, they have years of experience. And I mean, I could go through here and say, oh, that sounds important, but like I think the manager said it best, if there's no chance of that being funded, why waste your time doing that? So for me, I would like for the lobbyists to go through, pick what you think it would be maybe instead of 6, maybe the top 10 priority, because there's a lot. How many are there in here? 100? About 100?
No, not about 100. There's 4 pages worth, so I think there's about 30. And maybe
But each one of
35.
those things have other things under them, other things that fall under them. So there's a lot of issues. So for me, I don't want to see us spinning our wheels if we don't have a chance to make something happen. And Ms. Faircloth, if you could get yours to us soon, I mean, so we would know, 'cause we certainly want that to be included as well. But I would ask that you guys tell us what the chances are. But I love the idea of the narrative, so that when we do go to Tallahassee or speak to anybody, I think that's a wonderful idea, Mr. Burgess, to have everybody on the same page. Thank you.
We're all saying the same thing. I think we need to we hire them to do this job for us. Let them come back to us with their top whatever number that is, and then we can, if there's an add-on or something, or, but we want to support the initiative, but we need to bring home money to the community so we don't have to spend the community's money if there's other money out there. So, Ms. Faircloth.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was looking into, for the past couple of months, into a senior citizens program, because I recognize there's a gap in services for all seniors in the community. We have tons of things for the kids to partake in during the day, but when it comes to seniors, we kind of fall short. So as opposed to adding it to our legislative action list, I think this has the potential to get funding off of the legislative list. So I would prefer to keep our list how it is. We prioritize it and let our lobbyists to move forward projects who they feel would bring us, home the bacon and Homestead. And then with the senior citizens program, we can work it from a different angle so that we're not adding more to the pile, because this has the potential to get funded outside of being on the priority list.
One other thing we've got to realize too is we've got the incoming president of the Miami-Dade League of Cities sitting at the dais tonight too, which gives us, John's new position gives us added leverage as a community, as a local representative for our community, but also as a representative for all the cities in Miami-Dade County. So kudos to John for, you know, his new job. And congratulations. It's not, you haven't been appointed yet, but I think that's a huge bullet in our gun. So, is anybody uncomfortable with the direction to let them bring us back a top 5, 6, 7, and then we can, if we need to massage it, we've got a few days to do that? Okay. Anything else, Bob, Jose, Mr. Burgess?
So they're gonna try to work together and formulate what they think is most attainable up there at the level.
That's my understanding. We want to know where we got the best chance to win something for the community. Besides the fact that, you know, first of all, I think we've got to agree that the trail project and the tax speedway tax issue have been on our agenda for many years, and those really we need to close those hopefully. And then you can bring, that would be my understanding. I mean, those have been our challenge for a while, and especially with the funding possibly being available. Anyway, you guys know what you got. Ms. Wallman?
I just want to clarify, just to say that the reason that the trail project is so important this year and this year only is because we really, I mean, Mr. Levy said it already. I mean, this is the year. If the Rails to Trails is funded, then we have our money, and it looks like, you know, we have a really good chance to do that. So I just want to clarify that.
Okay. Anything else, guys? Thank you very much. We're gonna move on to tab 2, Losner Park expansion. Mr. Manager, Rick.
Staff recommends that the mayor and council approve the resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Sasaki Associates, Inc. for the design of the expansion of Losner Park. The agreement specifies 2 phases of the project. Phase 1 is the conceptual design of the project. The Phase 1 fee is $38,280. The agreement stipulates that the city can opt to have Sasaki Associates, Inc. complete Phase 2 after Phase 1 is complete. Following the completion of Phase 1, Sasaki will present a Phase 2 scope of services and fee schedule for council approval. On October 22nd, 2014, at the October 22nd, 2014 council meeting, mayor and council authorized the city manager to negotiate with Sasaki Associates, who was the highest ranked qualified respondent to RFQ 2014-32 for the conceptual design of the expansion of Losner Park.
Questions from council? This is a public hearing. Any questions from the public? I'll close the public hearing at this time. Final questions from council? Is there a motion?
Move it, Mayor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Fairclough,
Yes.
Councilwoman Waldman,
Yes.
Councilman Maldonado,
Yes.
Councilman Williams, Mayor Porter,
Yes.
the motion carries.
Just, Mayor, if you
Mr.
don't mind,
Maldonado?
before we just move on, just a quick question. I know there's a timeline here. When does that start to happen, Rick?
Once we get the PO and the contract totally signed, then we'll have an initial meeting with the vendor and put together a more accurate timeline to make
Would you
sure
be able
that...
to just update us and let us know as
Sure.
that begins? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Tab 4, waiver of fees. Rick, Mr. Manager?
Mayor, County Commissioner Levine Cava is requesting mayor and council to authorize city manager to approve a waiver of usage fees in the amount of $500 for the use of FICO Williams Community Center Banquet Hall on February 21st, 2015 to host a citizenship clinic according to City's Code, Chapter 20, Section 20-11, Fees and Charges. City Council sets fees and has the right to waive parks and recreation fees by a majority vote.
Questions from council? Tab 4, waiver of fees. Commissioner Cava. Second? Mr. Williams, I'm sorry. No, that's all right, I got it. I'm sorry. Mr. Williams.
Okay. Isn't this the month that, or maybe I missed the month, that the new rules are supposed to come back into play? rules for adopting fees, waivers, that kind of thing?
May I?
I'm just asking.
May I?
Yes, Ms. Wallman?
We had a big discussion on that, I forget how many meetings ago. And Dennis, do you want to pick up on where I'm leaving off? Because it's my understanding that, I mean, everybody was just all over the place. Nobody could agree on anything. So, Dennis?
No, I thought we had agreed. I thought y'all had another meeting. What happened?
Councilman Williams, when we had the meeting to discuss the waiver fees, there was some issues of, how we should do the application, who gets the waiver, how do we, which council member votes on which one they want to do. And we also looked at look at some other issues that we have under the code with the attorneys to see what we can come up with on this issue. So we're still working with the attorneys on it.
Like what, Richard?
The ability under the code to waive these fees, because there's certain sections of the code that need to be amended in order to have these waiver fees. There's certain fees that have been waived that have been traditionally waived that are not that would need a code amendment to really codify. And when we started to get down to the individual issues of how we do it, what the sequence is, how we sort of implement it for the new period, it started to get complicated, and we just needed to spend some more time on it.
So the other option here is to just keep doing what you've been doing, which is we keep bringing them back to you. And that might be the easiest solution to this, because every direction we go down, it's like peeling an onion. There's another layer underneath. And so my recommendation to you all would be to just leave it as it is. When they come, we'll bring them in, and you make your decisions one by one.
And that's where we are now. That's where we are, so. Okay, there's a motion by John. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. This is a public hearing, waiver of fees for Commissioner Cava.
And what is this event dealing with?
So she's hosting a citizenship clinic to increase access and awareness around naturalization for Florida's legal permanent residents.
And FICO Williams.
Manager, if I may, she requested a place that could hold 300 to 400 people, and that was the largest facility.
How many people does this room hold?
I'm sorry, with tables and all that, if you add tables and that, probably like 250 comfortably.
What about security and all the other issues that come up with this kind of an event? Obviously that's not considered, or who's going to fund that?
That wouldn't fall under the security unless, of course, alcohol or something was intended on that. So it wouldn't be asked by them for security purposes.
So who would require security? What kind of security is required if you got 400 people there?
Well, they would have to come to us, and the police would be notified to let us know if they feel that there's supposed to be security there at that time, depending on the situation, Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Maldonado.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question, and I think, is there a point that we're going to work with Ms. Cava in regards to, how do we know what community she's reaching to, what leaders here it's going to be here in Homestead. And, I think that we've had that, I've had discussions in the past when it has to do with immigration and things like that, and we tend to be kind of scattered about it. It's a good idea, and what happens is that it's a touchy situation where there's a trust issue amongst those who need the help. And so, are we going to how do we make sure that we have good attendance? And I think, I'd like to know or have input or find out, and make sure that we have our leaders, be a part of that somehow, to make sure it's more of a success. I want to.
She just asked us for a room. We didn't really, we're not involved with this event at all. This is just a request for a room like any other organization would request a room.
And that's fine, and I think anytime anyone has made that request, I think that at some point, we try to figure out or make sure it's, the Homestead people are benefiting, and that's really the question, is how do we help her and to make sure that that she gets what she needs for the community that we know.
Well, she is going to be at City Hall tomorrow.
Okay.
She's got one of her first ever kind of outreach to the community. So if there's any, we've got an opportunity to address it with her,
Okay.
Depending upon if the council wants to
Well,
go.
I'll tell you what we could do is, Begonia, if you could make a special point of seeing if you can even get on her calendar tomorrow and ask her what kind of assistance our PIO office can do to assist in getting the word out. And also, Councilman, if you have any community leaders that you'd like us to reach out to, we're happy to do that as well.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Ms. Walden?
Yes, I can tell you that I spoke to Maria, her assistant, and they welcome any and all participation from our council, as they do other councils and municipalities, that she services. So I'm sure she'd be happy to have us participate. And as the mayor said, she will be here tomorrow at 4, and I would think that she would welcome any kind of conversation that you might want to bring up.
And thank you, Mayor, if you don't mind. And that's the whole point here. I know that she would welcome that, and we want to help her. And the reason I say that is one of my committees is the CRB, and I know that in our meetings we've been discussing about immigration and reform and what's happening. And I know that our community relations board is already kind of working towards that area, because we know that there's a lot that's going to happen within the next couple of years. So it'd be great if the committee members at least would know about it, or maybe have someone be able to work with them. And we're working towards this, so I think it'd be a beneficial thing for us to work with you guys, or with Daniela.
Begonia will follow up with you tomorrow after her discussion with them as well. And then if it's a separate meeting you want to have with them or a phone call, be happy to do that as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, this is a public hearing. I don't know if I did or didn't. So open up the public hearing. Any questions or comments? I'll close the public hearing. Final comments? Ms. Waldman?
Sorry, I almost let this get by me. I was asked today if I would bring this up. Relay for Life contacted me today and asked that they may be able to use the Centennial Float for the rodeo parade. And I guess we were told that it had to go before council to do that. It's our float, yes. Yes, so it's a Centennial Float, and pardon me? The parade date is January 24th. So,
Does that need to be
You
included?
could give some indication to the manager, but because this is a special call, we can only deal with topics on the special call. But you could sort of give some direction to the manager, have a discussion with the manager as to whether you wanted to do that.
Here, let me get a roll call on this, okay? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Waldman?
yes.
Councilman Burgess? Yes. Councilman Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fairclough?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, now this is
I'm sorry.
This is a special call, so this needs to come up and put this in the cow.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, for some reason, I had a note to go to the special call, so I apologize.
Okay, so we've done all the items. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Motion carries. About 5 minutes, we'll go into the committee of the whole.